Welcome to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. In June 2025, Trump detonated a tariff bomb, doubling steel and aluminum duties to 50%. Canada didn't blink. Instead, it unleashed a calculated counterstrike, real-time tariff triggers, reshoring demands, and ironclad procurement rules. As the clock ticks toward a July 21st trade reckoning, the pressure is building across factories, borders, and boardrooms. What began as a policy move has morphed into an industrial showdown. Now let's lift the hood and examine the pivotal moves, bold strategies, and power shifts, transforming this trade clash into a full-blown supply chain war. Turbocharged tensions, the trade war ignition point. In early June 2025, the Trump administration pulled the pin on what's now a runaway tariff grenade, doubling duties on steel and aluminum imports under Section 232, citing national security. But this wasn't aimed at China or Russia. Canada and Mexico, both USMCA allies, got swept up in the blast radius. The reaction? Markets jerked like a misfiring cylinder. Commodities went haywire. The US dollar revved up over 1%, and manufacturers across Detroit, Windsor, and beyond scrambled to recalculate orders, freight plans, and even supplier contracts. But Canada wasn't caught flat-footed. Back in March, it had already slapped on 25% retaliatory tariffs, 12.6 billion Canadian dollars in steel, 3 billion Canadian dollars in aluminum. Still, Trump's 50% spike on June 4th changed the game. At the G7 in Kananaskis, Prime Minister Mark Carney and Trump agreed to a 30-day window, make progress by July 21st, or face the consequences. And just like that, the race began, a timed trial to reshape the supply lines that power everything from farm trucks in Alberta to aerospace alloys in Quebec. This is more than just tit for tat. It's a test of how tightly wound the North American economic engine really is. With Canada now firmly in the driver's seat, let's examine how it launched its most calculated and coordinated trade response in decades. Precision retaliation, Canada's multi-gear trade response. Canada didn't just react, it recalibrated. On June 19th, Carney announced that starting July 21st, retaliatory tariffs would be set on a dynamic scale. Think of it like an adaptive suspension system. If trade talks with the US make progress, tariffs soften. If not, they stiffen automatically. This approach hasn't been used since 1990 and now serves as a real-time pressure valve. But that's just first gear. As of June 30th, all federally funded Canadian infrastructure, defense, and auto contracts must prioritize domestic suppliers. US firms can still compete, but only if they're manufacturing inside Canada's borders. Worried about third-party trade diversion? Canada has that sealed too. A 100% tariff rate quota now clamps down on steel imports from non-FTA countries, benchmarked to 2024 volumes. On top of that, advanced material tracking, including chemical analysis traceability, ensures no one's sneaking through backdoor metals. Canada's firing on all cylinders, tariffs, sourcing rules, import quotas, and material forensics all working in tandem. It's a policy drivetrain built for both impact and agility, and it's forcing OEMs and suppliers to remap their entire sourcing routes. Before we delve deeper, take a moment to subscribe to Piston Pundit and rev up that notification bell. You won't want to miss our next pit stop into the heart of automotive strategy and policy. Now, let's shift gears and look at how Canada isn't just defending its turf, it's actively reshaping the industry. Fueling the future, financing the reshoring shift. Canada didn't just send tariffs, it backed them with serious capital. Ottawa's large enterprise tariff loan facility is now open, offering up to 10 billion Canadian dollars in low-interest loans to support large Canadian firms hit by US tariffs. Meanwhile, provincial players are stepping up. Ontario's Ontario Together Trade Fund, OTTF, is dispersing grants to SMEs reshoring critical supply chains amid US trade pressure, encouraging investments that expand local manufacturing capacity. At the federal level, Canada's Build Canada Fund now mandates that steel and aluminum sourced for infrastructure and defense projects must come from domestic or trade partner suppliers, ensuring public investment directly supports Canadian producers. These aren't ad hoc bailouts, they're structural investments. By coupling financing tools and procurement mandates, Canada is turning a short-term tariff fight into a long-term strategy to reinforce its industrial backbone. And the ripple effects are global. Other nations are watching closely and responding in kind. Alliances in motion, global echoes of Canada's countermove. Canada's steel salvo sent ripples far beyond North America. In Brussels, EU leaders are responding with their own toolkit. No direct retaliation, but ramping up green steel subsidies, military-industrial collaboration, and sovereign supply chain planning. Japan's METI has even pledged emergency aluminum shipments to Canada, while Germany's Steel Federation praised Ottawa's agility and called for quicker EU action. This isn't just global coordination, it's coalition building. Like-minded nations are aligning industrial defenses, redefining supply security as a geopolitical pillar. Meanwhile, the US is digging in. Trade reps have labeled Canada's moves unnecessary, while considering WTO complaints. Industry groups from Michigan to Texas are calling for exemptions, warning of damage to the deeply integrated auto and aerospace ecosystems. As July 21st approaches, the metals themselves, steel and aluminum, have become more than resources. They're now chess pieces in a grander game of economic influence, diplomatic positioning, and regional resilience. This is supply chain strategy on a global scale. As international players dig in, the economic pressure is now meeting political resistance, and markets are showing signs of strain. Tariff tremors, inflation, politics, and the final countdown. With July 21st around the corner, markets are shifting into risk mode. Steel premiums out of Cleveland are rising fast, driven by fears of tariff volatility. The Bank of Canada has already flagged that prolonged barriers, whether Canadian or American, could ripple into inflation, with an estimated 75% pass-through to consumer prices over 18 months. The BOC is hinting at countermeasures, while the Fed walks a tightrope between softening inflation and growing geopolitical instability. Even the Bank of England's Governor Bailey has chimed in, calling out trade-driven inflation as a new policy frontier. Politically, Ottawa is under fire. Opposition leaders want faster retaliation, but Prime Minister Carney insists that synchronizing with allies, especially the EU and Japan, is key. Meanwhile, Trump teases carve-outs but holds firm on the tariff line until new import lists drop. This isn't just economic sparring, it's a deadline with wide-ranging consequences. Will it bring relief or rupture? Industry leaders, traders, and policymakers alike are holding their breath. Now let's pull it all together and see what this means for the road ahead. Verdict: forging the steel firewall. As of June 26, 2025, Canada's response has shifted from defense to doctrine. Dubbed the Steel Firewall, Ottawa's package of auto-scaling tariffs, domestic sourcing mandates, strategic financing, and strict traceability isn't just retaliatory, it's transformational. By hardwiring sovereignty into its industrial supply chains, Canada is laying the foundation for long-term resilience in critical sectors like automotive, aerospace, and infrastructure. The world is watching, and in some cases, following suit. With the July 21st deadline ticking down, this is no longer about temporary tension. It's a battle over the architecture of global trade. Will North America return to integrated manufacturing harmony, or are we witnessing the start of a metal Cold War? Either way, steel and aluminum now sit at the crossroads of diplomacy, inflation, national security, and economic identity. Now we want to hear from you in the comments. Is Canada's steel firewall the future of industrial defense, or a risky overcorrection? Will other countries follow suit and build their own economic firewalls? And how do you think this will affect car prices, job markets, and innovation in the auto industry? Share your thoughts, predictions, and opinions below. We'd love to hear what's on your dashboard. If this high-stakes trade drama has sparked your interest, make sure to subscribe and tap that notification bell so you never miss a gear-turning update from your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. Thanks for watching and see you next time. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's plenty more to explore.